Hi everyone, Sandra Duran Wilson here, and welcome to this week's episode of Mixed Media Soul Sparks, where I bring you some inspiration tips, studio ideas, and all kinds of mixed media and painting tips and techniques. Today I'd like to share with you some collage ideas. This was one of the suggestions from an earlier video. I always ask you if there's something you'd like me to cover, then write in the notes in the YouTube videos what you'd like to see me cover. So this was one of them about collage ideas. And this particular aspect of collage, I'm going to cover how to know which glue to use. I call it, you want to match your adhesive to the weight of your paper. And so what I put together here are a lot of different collage materials. And these are all pretty much papers that I've made. I love making my own collage papers because you get unique imagery that you can't get by just buying, commercial papers. There's a few tips I want to share with you. This one is a deli sheet. It's just something I painted. So this is a fairly lightweight paper. These are on more of a cardstock, so they're a heavier weight paper. I'm adhering this piece to a mixed media paper. Now you could do this on panel, you could do it on canvas. Doesn't matter. This paper was it's a store-bought paper. It came with this color. However, this particular type of paper, it's a Lotka paper, the colors are very fugitive, meaning that they fade out quickly. So what I have done, this is the original color side, and I have painted it a very similar color. Because if this paper fades, which it will, and there might even be some little areas where I didn't get it completely painted, it's going to give it even more of a texture look to it. But I didn't want to use it just as is. You could spray it with a UV spray, but I like to paint it because I know it's not going to fade. This is a paper that I did buy, and it's a black and white paper. This is kind of got a wax in it, so this was actually a real kind of batik paper. And I did spray this in a big sheet with a UV spray, so it's going to keep it from fading. The colors that fade the most are black and red. Now this is a piece of red, and it's just a painted paper. And you can see it's just leftover pieces. And sometimes these leftover pieces make for the most interesting shapes. This is a leftover piece, and I gold leafed this paper. And you can see I cut out all of these shapes to use in another painting. But the negative space left by this is very interesting. This little piece is like super thin. It's almost like tape. And this is leftover from a transfer. It's a leftover from a water slide decal transfer, and very transparent. And this was just another deli sheet that I keep these around, and I clean off stamps, I use up extra paint, and I'll tell you, there's some of my favorite collage papers. So let me just show you what I mean by matching the adhesive to the paper. The two things I can't live without as far as gel mediums. Polymer medium gloss, or as they call it now, just gloss medium. This is the new packaging. I always say polymer medium gloss because for years that's what it was. Same thing. This is going to dry very clear. So this is one of my go-to glues. The other one is the soft gel gloss. Both gloss because they dry the clearest. And they're different viscosities, meaning they're different thicknesses. So for a thin paper like this, I could use either one of these. I'm going to use the gel just because it's easier to get down on here with my knife. Here's another tip. When I'm using gels, I don't use a brush, I use a knife. And the reason I like to do that is because I can spread it easily like this and get the desired thickness. With a brush, you're almost just brushing it and you get, you know, whatever thickness it spreads, so you can't control it. Here, if I want a thick layer, I don't press down so much. If I want a thin layer, I hold my knife at an angle and I remove some of it. Because this is a thin paper, I don't need a whole lot. So I'm going to make it a fairly thin layer. I can pick it up with my knife and I can put it back in the jar, whereas with a brush you can't really do that. Okay. Now, it's another little trick. Sometimes if you have a thin paper and you want to put this onto a wet surface, you might see that it's going to want to wrinkle. So one of my tricks, this is just water, and I just do a fine mist of water onto the paper. You can see how even with the gel, this paper's kind of wanting to buckle up. It's just the nature of when you put something wet onto a paper, it wants to buckle up. That little bit of water on there is going to help it from wrinkling. Oops, move this up here. Well, because I had to pick that up and move it, I've got an air bubble underneath there. Something you usually don't want to get, and now I've torn it. So you can see that these things happen. So don't get freaked out about it. It's just more texture. And I can always go back over and paint it. Now, to put the heavier pieces on, I could use the gel, or I might decide to use a heavier gel. When you go to the art supply store, you're going to see all of these different, they say soft, they say regular, or they say heavy. And this one is a heavy gel. It's a big container. And I just want to show you the difference. You saw this was pretty easily spreadable. This is really thick. It's almost like wax or something. Very, very thick. And if you have a paper that is really textured, way too much on there, and you need something that's going to kind of go up into those ridges of a texture, then you want to use something that's heavy. I could have probably gotten away with the soft gel on this, but just to be sure, I'm going to use the heavy. I'm not too concerned with getting things on the front because this is all going to dry clear. I'm going to move this out of the way. Now this one, I would just glue this on the same way with the soft gel. And I'm going to get this on so then I can show you putting the polymer or the gloss medium for that very thin piece. You can see when I don't have to move the paper, it doesn't wrinkle so much. Now this one, this is the gloss medium. I'm actually going to use a brush to put it on. Because this is super thin. And now, when this comes over, I'm going to kind of put it on this way. Then I want to come back in with the heavy gel, because this is very thick paper. So you think about it, thin papers, you want a thin viscosity. Thick papers, you need a thick viscosity. And as I said, if you only have those two, you can pretty well make everything work. And you get to kind of a certain point to where you have to let certain things dry before you go back in. And you see how that's wanting to roll up? I might let it sit for a little while and then come back in and add some more paste to it. Other papers, thin papers like this is actually a very thin fabric. I would use the gloss medium. These papers, I could use the soft gel gloss. And then I even have these other papers which are coated already with a gloss medium on them. So this is about matching the weight. So this is a leaf skeleton, as you can see. So when I get this piece finished, I'm going to have the leaf skeleton going on top of this piece. And what would I use for that one? That would be the gloss medium. So I would use the gel to put this piece to that piece, and then I'd use the gloss medium to adhere that. So I hope that answers a lot of your questions on collage. I'll be covering more tips on design, going from complex to simple designs, but I really wanted to address this with matching the weight of the paper to the viscosity of the medium. So thank you for joining me this week, and if you like these ideas and you want to explore more classes, take a look at the website. Thanks again. Join the community and share your creations on social. Use the hashtag MixedMediaSoulSparks. I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section.